Hello and welcome to another edition of the NTN Morning Update, coming to you live from the GIS Studios, the Information Command Center. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jessie Leonce. I'm joined in studio by my colleague Carlton Cyril. Today is the last day of July for 2020, 31st July 2020, and we do hope it has been a month where you were able to get by, you were able to get the things you needed, considering the circumstances of COVID-19, the hurricane season and whatnot. We continue with our programming live on NTN with the updates coming from the government of St. Lucia. Headlining is the case of COVID-19, the 25th case that has been recorded here on island. We have the details to that story coming up in just a moment. The Boys Training Center manager speaks on plans for the $50,000 donation received from proceeds of the Prime Minister's Independence Ball. And also we have the Water and Sewage Company WASCO holding its second annual general meeting. Do stay tuned for these stories as they roll out for the duration of the NTN Morning Update. Good morning, Carlton.
Bonjour Jessie, ek ba mwen di bonjour pour vous kave nou ici à cette camarade là ko nou ka ba ou information développement kon ka point coup. Jodi c'est vendredi le 31, ça c'est dernier jour à mois juillet. Qu'on gagne bien ça pour nous cette ici demain c'est un holiday. Quand nous entrons dernier jour où à connaître les venus pour holiday tout le monde jani plan mais avant plan nous kay ba c'est développement parmi eux ou kay savent nous ni en l'autre cas les venus pour Covid 25e là et parmi l'autre développement kay un plan les venus pour c'est Tibay là en centre Tibay là Gozile Boys Training Center nous kay un plan pour yon check yo ouvert pour $50,000 nous avons un plan pour ça et puis parmi l'autre développement aussi nous avons WASCO chaîne un meeting qu'on l'habitude nous avons un développement et puis plus merci tellement qu'on nous dit bonjour pour vous qui avez nous sur Facebook pour vous qui écoutez nous sur radio et ben n'importe côté qui supporter nous dans une manière ou l'autre nous ici à toujours content pour support et nous avons waiting en écoute à sous un vendredi quand je suis bien nous moi c'est Carlton Cyril et nous toujours c'est toujours un plaisir pour nous ici à Côté Développement en centre Camadlan pour information.
On Thursday, July 30th, 2020, the Ministry of Health and Wellness received the results of another positive COVID-19 test. We have the details to that development coming up on the other end of this break. Stay tuned.
Do you have a question for a government minister or ministry? Here's your chance to ask anything. Send in your questions as videos or text to askmeanythingntn@gmail.com and we will have your questions answered live on NTN Channel 122. Follow us on Facebook and YouTube for more updates and your chance to ask anything.
On Thursday, that was yesterday, the 30th of July 2020, the Ministry of Health and Wellness received results of a positive COVID-19 case. The individual is an 86-year-old male patient with a history of diabetes, high blood pressure, investigated for prostate cancer with a history of surgery 2 weeks ago. He was transferred to the respiratory hospital on July 26, 2020. The Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sharon Belmar George, provides an update.
He's presently in the intensive care unit at the respiratory hospital for management and care. The team has commenced investigations and contact tracing to establish the source and contain transmission. Updated information will be provided as received. This new case brings a total number of cases reported to 25. 22 of those cases have fully recovered and 3 patients remain in care at the respiratory hospital. A total of 2,968 tests have been conducted to date. As we manage new cases and investigate possible contacts, the public is advised to take personal responsibility to protect themselves and family. We advise on responsible behavior without unnecessary panic. The public is advised that all protocols are still in place, including the reduced numbers for public transportation and protocols for public and private sector establishments. These also include the use of face masks in public places and maintaining safe physical distance from others.
Again, this 86-year-old patient was transferred to the respiratory hospital on July 26, 2020, with fever and shortness of breath. The CMO there indicating that he's presently in intensive care at the respiratory hospital for management and care. The team has commenced investigations and contact tracing to establish the source and contain transmission. Of course, we do hope you could stay tuned. We will be giving you updates in subsequent broadcasts. This new case, this 25th case, it brings the total number of cases to 25, as mentioned earlier. 22 of these cases have fully recovered, and 3 of these patients remain in care. These are just 3 active cases right now in St. Lucia at the respiratory hospital. A total of 2,968 tests have been conducted to date. The chief medical officer explained that the 5 respiratory clinics remain open to facilitate anyone with respiratory signs and symptoms or concerns. The 311 hotline is also available where concerns and questions can be addressed. So please take note of that. We remind the general public that the island is still under a state of emergency. The officials remain vigilant, as should you, for the COVID-19, the coronavirus, and we do hope that you have taken every measure, observing the 6-foot physical distance when you get on a bus, if you go into an establishment, wearing of the mask, washing of hands, the use of hand sanitizer as an alternative, as much as you can, because we really do not know what the extent of COVID-19 is. There are efforts, feverish efforts at this time to contain COVID-19, to manage COVID-19 on island, but we really do not know what is going on in the micro world. And so we hope that everybody's doing their part to ensure that transmission is low, if at all. So please take note of that. And this is the first case that we've seen, Carlton, in ICU. You know, these are stories that we hear of abroad, persons requiring perhaps ventilators in ICU under heavy observation. And so far, this is the first case that we're hearing from St. Lucia, especially given the individual's age, as well as the pre-existing conditions of diabetes, high blood pressure, and being investigated for prostate cancer, just coming out of surgery a fortnight ago. So these are things to take into consideration.
Jesse, and it speaks a whole lot of when we speak to vulnerability and get into that sector of the population, and we could see why none of our cases until now has ever been admitted or have been on the respiratory machines or have ever been, if I may say, critical. And the warning was out there, and we keep saying it, while young persons are less vulnerable, you know, with no underlying ailments, we are seeing what could happen when it reaches that sector of our population.
Vulnerable, susceptible sections of our population. Absolutely. We continue with news for the morning. The Boys Training Center manager, Wang Sonson, stopped by RGIS studios on Wednesday morning. And for those of you who are NTN faithfuls, you would remember that he was in studio with myself and Carlton and sat to speak to us about the operations of the Boys Training Center, coming off of the heels of this institution, this juvenile rehabilitation facility, being the recipient of the largest sum, the largest donation from proceeds of the Prime Minister's Independence Ball. This was the largest donation made to the 17 charities and other non-profit agencies in the check handing over ceremony that was held 2 weeks ago. We now go to a news report that was prepared coming off of this very special interview earlier this week. Take a listen.
Manager of the Boys Training Center, Mr. Wang Sonson, was elated by the donation of $50,000 from the Prime Minister's Independence Ball, which was held earlier this year. During the check handing over ceremony, which took place on Monday, 20th July 2020, the Boys Training Center received the largest sum among the donations made to 17 charities and non-profit organizations. Mr. Sonson was heartened by the gesture and said that the donation would go a long way in improving the lives of the boys at the institution.
The message it sends, and I think that not only to the boys but to the staff of the center, is that we are being thought of. And although we know with the onset of COVID, finances and what we had initially planned for with our budget, it did not come through. But the fact that this donation came our way will let us know that in all these difficult times, the Prime Minister's office holds the center dear to heart, and they are trying their best to ensure that the boys at the center succeed.
The Boys Training Center is a juvenile rehabilitation facility taking in minors that are in need of care and protection and those who come in conflict with the law and have been remanded by the justice system. The center has ongoing a number of rehabilitative programs, counseling services, and robust sports and music programs. The institution also offers technical vocational subjects including welding, auto mechanics, woodwork, and agriculture.
Over the past 3 years, we decided that we really wanted to get a boy at the center some form of qualification before leaving the center. And we want this to be something that is ongoing. We were able to have a group of boys sometime in 2017 assessed for CVQ level 1 in agriculture. Some aspects of CVQ level 1. They were all successful, but unfortunately because of the high turnover rates, they were never able to complete level 1 CVQ. We built on that, and last year we had a boy, a former ward now, assessed for level 1 and level 2 in auto mechanics and welding. And as a matter of fact, he was very successful, and he's now gainfully employed, having attained those certificates. We now have 2 boys awaiting to be assessed in welding, and hopefully in the next month they would have gotten their certification.
Sonson indicates that the $50,000 donated from proceeds of the Prime Minister's Independence Ball will help strengthen their programming, among other enhancements at the facility.
We also going to purchase some furniture. We have a section of the center which is the care and protection area. So we're going to buy some, purchase some furniture to make it more homely for the boys that are there. And also, we've been making strides in our technical and vocational subjects, and agriculture is one over the past 3 months that has really taken off at the center. So we want to enhance and improve on the agricultural experience for the boys, so we are going to invest some of that money in our agricultural program.
The Prime Minister's Independence Ball was held as part of the nation's 41st Independence Day activities, organized jointly by the Office of the Prime Minister and the National Independence Committee. The funds raised went towards the most needy and vulnerable in society, including the homeless, elderly, and youth at risk, with approximately $300,000 being donated. For the Government Information Service, I am Jessie Leonce reporting.
And that was a report on the Boys Training Center, the work that is ongoing at that juvenile rehabilitation facility, as well as information on how the $50,000 that was donated to the institution will be used. We heard from the manager there, Mr. Wang Sonson, that the monies will be used to go towards furniture to make the experience that the boys have be one that is comforting, that's more that more reflects a home-like atmosphere, and also being invested into their programming. We did hear that he has intentions to expand the agriculture program. Just hats off to the administrator as well as the teachers and counselors at the Boys Training Center, the work that they've managed to achieve so far in improving the lives of the wards. We want to go back to the case of COVID-19 that was registered this week, the 25th case. We do have a query on our Facebook comment section. Somebody wants to know who the 86-year-old got it from, where did it originate? How did he get it transmitted to him? And you and I and all the rest of us want to know as well, and that is why the Ministry of Health and Wellness has indicated that it has initiated investigations and contact tracing to establish the source and hopes to contain transmission. And of course, we do have the assurance, and they always follow up from the Department of Health and Wellness, that updated information will be provided as received. So please take note, we are none the wiser at this point in time, but rest assured that the Ministry of Health and Wellness have launched an investigation to determine how this 86-year-old contracted COVID-19. Carlton?
Merci tellement, Jessie. Et nous allons continuer ici en développement là pour faire puis COVID. Vous savez, à présent nous avons un 25e cas de COVID. Mon annoncement ça a été fait jeudi le 30 mois ça. Et puis là nous attendons mon c'est un homme 86 ans et puis il a l'histoire de sick in pressure et puis là il a fait investigation il est venu pour cancer prostate là nom il pas tenu déjà longtemps nom il décimène ça exactement nom fait l'opération et ben il a amené l'hôpital qui est responsable pour point cas pièce cas de COVID ça c'est VIH et puis il y a un petit bagage la raison il mené là c'est parce que il était dans la fièvre et qu'il était une difficulté pour prendre l'expiration à présent il a et puis il a manager situation ça l'hôpital VIH là qui c'est l'hôpital là qui est responsable pour pièce cas de COVID en 7 lycées pour la peine nous tendre hord CMO docteur Belma George Kadino les vini pour situation ça investigation a commencé et qui a commencé vers côté communauté vient contacter et puis pour établir exactement côté et peut-être joindre et co-transmission qui aussi dit yo kay bay plus information les yo joindre car ça comme dit qu'a mené pour 25 moun qui a testé positif pour Covid et pour à présent nous ni 22 en ces moun ça a recouvert et ha la kayo mais 3 toujours qu'à point traitement en l'hôpital là comme moi l'homme non si moi aller plus loin pour dire là vini pour situation il a dit là yo ka bay public lan conseil souple ou ni pour point responsabilité à commencer et puis pour protéger corps et puis famille il ka bay conseil aussi pour dire là vini pour manière moun ka comporter koyo responsabilité ça c'est ça ou qui a dit moun pas besoin commencer mettre tiers yo en chat pour dire ça qui a les pandémique là mais il a dit yo ka encore bay avertissement avec Gide souple suivre protocole national qui ja établi et quand parmi ça il vient l'homme non moun qui a battu ce transport il a dit toujours c'est moun ça ni en limo ce transport là yo ni en limo moun yo supposé chayer yo ni poursuivre protocole ça expressement et qui aussi parler du secteur privé à côté moun ka aller faire business parmi ces bagages ça ka être constant si moi ça changer tous les bons matins là nous venons ici nous ka plaider nous ka dit mettez masque là en public faire assis au distance social là en parmi l'autre bagaille il vient aussi établi là il vient pour ces cliniques là et ça c'est 5 ces cliniques là nous ni on pays avec ces cliniques ça yo là pour personne qui kay mouche pièce sin et ben personne qui croit yo malade en pièce manière ben l'autre ou ça attendez ces cliniques ça aussi nous ni limo 311 ou ça couiller limo ça là si on y pièce question et ben conseil les il vini pour affaires COVID madame CMO aller plus loin pour dire là il vini pour ministre qui responsable pour santé yo ka bay conseil dit bien important pour moun changer là il vini pour nous ka maintain un standard pour empêcher vers maintenant si manger souple il a dit encore moun ni pour ka laver la main yo souvent sous pani savon et puis glo servi sanitizer côté ou peut pas mais c'est au cadeau souvenir pour tousser bestiené faire dans serviette tout ça été be fait en coup de bois parmi l'autre conseil Ijabay ministère aller plus loin pour dire OK continuer ban nous information là pour faire covid et si ou même voulez plus information ou peut crier office chef medical officer et ben office epidemiology ça c'est limo 468 5309 et ben 468 5317 ou peut crier nous sent ça ça c'est monsieur Wang Sangson et puis là il parle puis nous avec raison pour ça qu'ils savent il pas tenir longtemps les 20 lundi les 20 mois ça il oui souvert yon donation la hot office premier ministre là à sous bol là yo ka tous les l'année là pour $50,000. Et puis là nous parler by monsieur Wang ici il dit nous l'argent ça pas mis bagay kay aller pour faire cette boy la plus confortable. Il dit yo kay fait place là côté qui semble en kay côté yo kay senti ko yo comme si dit yo la kay yo. Parmi l'autre bagay il dit pas de temps COVID point coup yo fait un chay travail en agricole mais il était bien content pour dire l'année jeune ti boy qui ka apprendre l'état qu'on welding parmi l'autre bagay mécanique et bien agriculture qu'on y parlait et qui dit c'est là yo kay dépenser l'argent parmi bagay yo kay fait là il a dit là il parle ben nous yon a ces bagay là il trouve qui bien important c'est là vini pour yo ka assister cette boy là et ka assister yo en sport il parle di 4 points en compagnie de cette boy sec mené yo la grenade côté yo participer et c'est yo qui yo recognize yo pour cette garçon qui était ni plus bon mess les vini pour compétition qui dit était bien plein pour ça il était supposé aller babad mais Covid empêché yo aller parmi l'autre bagay qui a fait là il dit cette boy là ka pon jouer rugby il dit yo ka mouche cette boy là pas dit yon qui ja un certificat les vini pour welding là dans compagnie là ka apprendre et ka étudier toujours quoi il bien content pour ça qui a dit travail là pas bout là il a demandé public là souple les vini pour nous qui connaît pièce cette boy ça qui a passé en institution là il a dit souple assister yo en yon manière et ben l'autre manière nous ça parce qu'il dit après yo quitter là yo même cette là qu'a fait d'Ivoire pour assister yo hen travail place pour être parmi l'autre bagaille quoi il était bien content nous était bien content ici pourtant travail là qui a fait là comme on dit toujours dit nous parler puis appeler nous attendre ça qui mauvais qui sorti là il a bien content nous a bien content pourtant c'est bon bagaille là qui a fait expressement et puis c'était ça l'âge là yo hier et condition à de la situation yo ka trouver koyo en dedans. Nous ka continuer ici à rester en écoute parmi l'autre développement là venu pour WASCO ka chaîne meeting nous ka ba information en laissa et puis pli. Rete puis nous ba développement en 7 camarades là. Bon matin dernier jour en mois juillet ici nous ka ba développement et information. Merci tellement.
Thanks for that, Carlton. And just to remind you, St. Lucia so far has confirmed 25 cases, 22 of which have fully recovered, and we do have 3 active cases. They are being treated at the respiratory hospital. We do wish these 3 individuals a speedy recovery. So please take note of these figures, and as you go in and out, we do hope that you're taking all of the measures to protect yourself from COVID-19, especially as this latest case there's an investigation that is ongoing to determine the contact tracing is ongoing, as well as efforts to establish the source and containing the transmission of this latest case, possible transmission. Do stay tuned. After months of reeling from the impact of the closure of borders related to COVID-19, Export St. Lucia is happy to report that St. Lucian farmers and exporters of agricultural produce will recommence exports to the United Kingdom on Sunday, 26 July. So that's the word that we've received. Of course, that is this past Sunday, but we will give you an update on those details and how that export did transpire. Also, the Water and Sewage Company, WASCO, has held its 2nd annual general meeting. The details to that and more coming up after this break.
Overnight, growing national unrest.
Society, a digital cashless society, one world currency.
A vaccine for COVID-19.
Droplet
COVID virus.
Macy's iconic flagship
Virus
set
the coronavirus.
Everybody vaccinated on the corona pandemic.
Opposition to the lockdown.
An infected conspiracy theories.
Bizarre claims.
It's about the origin of COVID-19 hidden from the rest of the world. And the Chinese
In this constantly changing environment, resulting in sensory overload, cut through the noise and tune in to the National Television Network, the official source of information, all facts.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. This is the NTN Morning Update live from the GIS studios, the Information Command Center. We continue with updates for you coming from the government of St. Lucia. The Water and Sewage Company, WASCO, held its second annual general meeting. At the meeting held on Tuesday, the outgoing members of the WASCO board presented an annual report containing information for shareholders about the company's performance and strategy. Take a listen.
The Water and Sewage Company, WASCO, has held its second annual general meeting. The Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries, Physical Planning, Natural Resources and Cooperatives, Honorable Ezekiel Joseph, during his address at the annual general meeting, gave an update on the current position of the Water and Sewage Company. The minister highlighted that one of the main goals of the company is to reduce the amount of non-revenue water. Non-revenue water is water that has been produced and is lost before it reaches the customer. This can occur through physical losses due to leaking and broken pipes, which are caused by poor operations and maintenance, the lack of active leakage control, and poor quality of underground assets.
We still have to continue to put the systems in place to reduce non-revenue water. We can't have an organization operating, whilst our finances seems to be looking okay, operating, and the figures are showing between 40 and 50%, and depends who you speak with, 60% non-revenue water. That's too high. And that's one of the reasons why I have said, as the Line Minister, until we are able to reduce the whole aspect of the non-revenue water, I would not be supportive of any increase in tariff. And whilst I don't have the authority to determine that, but I just want to express my sentiments. I believe we need to reduce non-revenue water. We cannot be expending so much financial resources, and when you heard that our situation as far as non-revenue water is not very encouraging.
The Minister for Agriculture also highlighted the importance of new technology in reducing energy cost. Minister Joseph noted that the company is investigating other possibilities of water harvesting, such as underground water harvesting and desalination. The minister also gave an update on the current desilting of the Roseau Dam project.
We have not seen the commencement of the desilting, but based on information, it should start this year. And after how many years? 2010 to now? 12 years, 10 years, 10 years, we shall see the commencement of the desilting of the John Compton Dam. I want to say that whatever contract we have is only the first phase of the desilting. It's only the first phase of the desilting, because I was under the impression before I got directly involved with this organization, I was under the impression that the desilting was going to take 1 year. That was my understanding. But what we are doing there right now is just the commencement of the desilting. And based on information from the technical team, the desilting, if, of course, barring any unforeseen, barring any other Thomas, or barring any other Christmas Eve trough, the desilting will take almost 8 to 9 years.
The Cabinet Secretary and representative of the shareholder, the Government of St. Lucia, Benjamin Emmanuel, recognized and expressed gratitude on behalf of the shareholder to the outgoing board of the company for its compliance with the corporate governance requirements of the company.
Today's meeting, or this second general annual meeting, is in fact a demonstration of that commitment and dedication of the board under the able leadership of Mr. Francis Dembo and supported by his board to ensure compliance and adherence to the corporate governance requirement of this organization or this company. In the report from the general manager, we note the continued improvement in performance of the company in fulfillment of its mandate, the reforms and the restructuring being pursued by the company over the years, and the significant achievements being made in that direction.
The annual general meeting took place on Tuesday, July 28, 2020. From the Government Information Service, I am Anicia Antoine reporting.
Thank you very much for that news report, Anicia. After months of reeling from the impact of the closure of borders related to COVID-19, Export St. Lucia is happy to report that St. Lucian farmers and exporters of agricultural produce will recommence exports to the United Kingdom on Sunday, July 26th. That was last Sunday. British Airways will operate a 777 cargo-only flight to Gatwick to transport produce from 13 fresh produce exporters to the United Kingdom. A general manager of the UNR Air Cargo Services elatedly said that he was pleased to see the return of British Airways flights and that he was even more pleased to see activity at the cargo shed, which brought relief to the exporters. And Nyla Mangal of Mangal Trading, a young lady of mark, shared her thoughts on Sunday's shipments. She indicated one of the most difficult things during this period was dealing with the disappointment. Three ways. Our UK buyers were disappointed that they could not get our provisions. The farmers were disappointed that yet another sales revenue stream was gone. And for me, as a young entrepreneur, I was unable to ply my trade for what seemed like forever. I'm beyond happy about Sunday and looking forward to future exports. And Nyla has been in the news of late as a young lady benefiting from assistance from Export St. Lucia with research and buyer matching in the UK market. Ms. Sunita Daniel of Export St. Lucia stated that the return of this cargo flight, this cargo service from British Airways, is one step towards a semblance of normalcy for the island and in particular our produce exporters. It has been a very trying time for us as an agency, she indicated, having to deal with demand from buyers and distress from our exporters. She did indicate further that we did, however, remain in contact with our buyers in the UK and kept looking for new purchasers as there had been an increase in supply over the last few months. The outgoing produce will bear our Taste of St. Lucia mark, a mark synonymous with the high quality and authentic St. Lucian product. So that is an update from Export St. Lucia on the resumption of the British Airways, the exports to the United Kingdom via British Airways. So please take note of that. Also important to note for this morning in terms of our broadcasting, we invite you, our viewers, to join in at 11 a.m. When the Ministry of Health and Wellness will launch its a suite of activities in observance of Vector Awareness Week. So please stay tuned to NTN at 11 a.m. As soon as this NTN morning update is done, stand by for the 11 a.m. start from the Ministry of Health and Wellness to launch activities for Vector Awareness Week. Carlton?
Merci tellement, Jessie. Quand nous continuons avec l'information ici, nous te donnons les pour faire WASCO. Et bien, WASCO tient un meeting là mardi, quand les vini pour board là, yo ka bay un annoncement, et bien, yo ka bay un rapport. Léni pour faire et puis board là où ils savent WASCO c'est deuxième meeting yo chaîne là et puis yo bay rapport ça qui ni information pour moun qui ja ni l'intérêt dedans WASCO et puis pour compagnie pour moucher performance li et côté yo ka aller parmi développement ben moun qui était présent c'est honorable Ezekiel Joseph li qui ministry ka manager et ben responsabilité pour WASCO ka tomber il dit là vini pour ça yon c'est bagay là yo vle faire premier c'est pour les yo produit glo pour gloire ni tan rivé customer avant yo wey ka gaspiller kon han. Et dit yon c'est plus gros problème dans WASCO ni c'est après yo a produit glo ça nous ka wè un chay glo ka gaspiller. Si ten ka pété, il ka dit un chay côté c'est manière yo ka manager ça équipement tout ça ni pour visiter. Pour la peine dit ça c'est yon c'est raison il pas kay d'accord pour pièce haussement les vini pour mettre pièce tarif à sous rien pour faire et puis WASCO parce qu'il dit WASCO ni pour mener mettez kaili en ordre les vini pour situation. Parmi l'autre bagay là il dit WASCO les vini pour WASCO yo ka kachile différemment. Parmi bagay yo ka kachile à présent c'est pour mener technologie neuf pour mettre en compagnie. Il dit yo ka kachile aussi pour veiller l'autre manière pour yo ça récolter glo. Peut-être acheter glo en source et bien l'autre côté pour ni pli glo et puis juste parler dit qu'après glo là mais avec fait dans manière comme ça moun ça servi il dit tout ça ni pour venir avec tout ça WASCO ni pour catcher dans manière pour mener yo pli d'ouvre dernièrement il parlait à sous les venir pour damna et puis pour yo ka nettoyer damna tier terre et puis sable qui j'ai plein d'hommes qui ont péché ni qualité gloire il supposé ni il dit après 10 ans projet ça a parlé dit il dit finalement yo kaiwe les fini pour WASCO yo kaiwe d'homme qui trouvé projet d'homme pour tirer sable et puis la boue dedans d'homme yo kaiwe ça ka point coup qu'à continuer ici à monsieur un mot bon parole ici à bon matin après quand moi nous ka les vini pour Covid comme toujours qu'a dit ici à plusieurs secteurs trouvé koyo affecté par Covid et ben il y en a ces secteurs ça les vini pour monde qui a vrai produit l'autre pays là nous tan hot export Saint Lucia là yo dit yo bien content pour ka ouais ça vie en opération les vini pour farmer et puis monde qui a vrai produit agricole l'autre pays ça vie commencer le 26 dimanche le 26 juillet avec nous ka ouais British Airways il kay opéré 777 cargo ça yo kay mener ça Gatwick et ça c'est l'Angleterre et yo kay mener produit qui a sorti hord 13 différents monde qui a produit ces produits ça là au kay savent General Manager là venu pour Euronora et cargo service là il a dit bien content pour ça kay vie côté avion ça British Airways kay commencer mener produit vie monter l'Angleterre et qui bien plaît pour activité vie commencer en shed cargo pour mener ça by un Shaimoun nous aussi ten hard mais Naila Mangal il c'est un jeune monde qui dit après 4 temps qu'a trouvé quoi désapprêté il bien content pour tant service ça qu'a vie commencer ça c'est un bagay yo bien plaît et puis en yon et ben des monsieur m'a dit bonne nouvelle dans une manière dans l'autre quand nous ka fait petit pas pour vie oui couvert économie et puis pour monde commencer ka ouais la vie ka vie qu'on normal. Merci et tellement qu'on nous continue ici à son enfant de bon matin. Cette camarade ici à NTN GIS.
Thank you very much for that, Carlton. Do stay tuned when we come back, our final segment.
Virus ready to harm us. Panic is not the answer. We can win this together. Often use hand sanitizer. Better yet, use soap and water.
We must protect each other if we are to beat this corona.
Together, let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together, let us win this war. Be a soldier, together we can beat this corona.
So you don't become the next case. Avoid touching your face. I'm sure you've been told so. Handshakes and hugging are up. No.
Advice is you to please. Cover your mouth and your nose if you cough or sneeze.
Practice social distancing and avoid large social gatherings.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. St. Lucia be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
For further information, please contact the hotline at 311 or the Bureau of Health Education at 468-5349.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. We're now down to our final segment of the NTN Morning Update for today. The Consumer Affairs Department is working to resolve all reported consumer affairs complaints. More in this report coming from Marvin St. Louis at the ministry.
Consumer complaints are being addressed. The acting Chief Complaints and Investigation Officer at the Consumer Affairs Department has assured the general public COVID-19 has not masked the department's work.
It is important to note that 90% of consumer complaints received during COVID period, they have been successfully resolved. 90%, and in fact, that percentage is a conservative figure.
Leslie Louis took his consumer complaint to the police. He sought resolution to an ongoing dispute.
The police tell me, well, they cannot do much for me in that area. The best place to go is to go to the Consumer Affairs Department. I felt I should just give up that. Because I know things that involve government, usually you have to go up and down, a lot of red tape, how much story. And I did that, that practically happened over the phone on WhatsApp. So I was very sad. To be honest, that was one of the main reasons why I feel you should always contact the Consumer Affairs Department, because I never thought it would have happened so easily.
The Consumer Affairs Department wishes to thank all businesses in St. Lucia who have cooperated in providing redress to consumers. Those efforts have not gone unnoticed.
Retailers of propane gas, the owners of establishments who retail spare parts and accessories for vehicles, and also retailers of furniture and electronics. We want to say thank you, and we would like you to continue this partnership between the Consumer Affairs Department, the consumers, and the business community.
Mr. Joseph also reminds consumers to keep their receipts as proof of purchase, ask questions about the product or the service, inquire and discuss issues relating to warranties. Marvin St. Louis, reporting from the Ministry of Commerce.
Thanks for that report, Marvin. Really do appreciate it coming from the Ministry of Consumer Affairs with the assurance that consumer complaints are being heard and every effort is being made to address them. At this point in time, we conclude our NTN morning update. We'd like to thank you so much for watching. Want to remind you of the 11 o'clock this morning schedule we have on live on NTN. The Ministry of Health and Wellness will be here on live at 11 a.m. To bring you the launch of activities for Vector Awareness Week. So tune in for that. And speaking of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, we got a press release from them, the latest one being word of the 25th case of the coronavirus here in St. Lucia. It is an 86-year-old male patient with a history of diabetes, high blood pressure, investigated for prostate cancer, and came out of surgery about a fortnight ago. We have the assurance that he was transferred to the respiratory hospital and is being treated there for fever, with fever and shortness of breath. He is presently in the intensive care unit at the respiratory hospital for management and care, and assurances from the Ministry of Health and Wellness that investigations have been initiated and contact tracing to establish the source and contain transmission. So we will be bringing you an update on the case coming from the Ministry of Health and Wellness in a subsequent broadcast. Thank you again for watching. Carlton, any final words as we close?
Oui, moi just dis encore pour qui t'es écouté, yon a ces nouvelles nous ka mener ici avec nous ka faut ça bon matin. C'est les vini pour qui peut-être ni yon manière ben l'autre en plainte, les vini pour pièces bien et ben service ou gain yon côté ben l'autre nous attend ça en chay, les vini pour moun ka nan problème ou gain bagay avec place là ou gain là pas vie après dommager ben nan problème moun pas vle vie point même pour service et là nous attend département qui responsable pour ça qu'a dit 90% c'est plainte là yo hen yo ja résolvé Quand yo kamando souple messieurs dames, si ou ni un problème qu'on nous te bien tan rapport à là, yon jeune homme, il était un problème, il aller au police avec police lan dit, c'est vous mieux y aller département ça qui c'est département qui responsable pour plainte moun ni contre yon service et bien gagné et que yo pas vle tan ça qui n'y a yo kay fait investigation ça et puis nous tan hod monsieur Joseph qui a dit en chay moun ni ce problème ça et qui a dit yo vini yo toujours ka travail expressement en temps Covid là il dit encore moi répéter 90% en ces plaintes ça yo ja résolvé qui dit merci pour en chay c'est moun il dit moun conseil Jean ka vendre gaz pour tout manger pour ces moun nan qui a vendre pièces parts pour machine parmi l'autre côté il a dit messieurs dames ou ça venir là mener problème parce que moi j'attends moi même à expérience à de là où il gagne bagay des jours croisé et ben ou venir pour un service et moun nan pas vle ba au service ça manière supposé l'année en département pour ça quoi tout fait qu'on informé ou ça aller là et puis yo kay travail pour faire assurer ou hen ça ou payer pour. Alors l'autre nouvelle ou kay ça semaine ça a commencé côté une semaine département santé qui est responsable pour vermine et puis l'autre disease en cette ici à 11h yo kay commencé programme pour observer ça observation ça quand retourner écouter et puis nous ici à 11h ou kay tan plus information les ini pour faire et puis ça et encore nous avons une opportunité pour dire merci tout le monde encore nous avons demain c'est un holiday quoi nous pas ici nous avons apologie pour ça mais nous avons fait en manière pour amuser quoi mais changer protocole national nous avons aussi point opportunité pour dire bienvenue nous comptons pour nous mademoiselle Cynthia là-bas ici et puis nous yon qui toujours qu'à suivre nous et pour ces gens Facebook nous kay match demain et nous pas qu'à matcher Lisa pour dire Lisa nous ka quoi tout bagage j'allais bien puis et même qu'a fait bien quoi changer messieurs dames nous ka essayer ba ou information même là nous associer nous ka catcher de nous ka souhaiter work from un bon holiday pour nous Saint-Lucie et pour qui l'autre pays nous ka dit wete supporter nous il veut dire en chai ça c'est côté moi kay bout li bon matin et ka dit encore ça jeune et puis nous lundi si je voulais nous kay vieux commencer sur en l'autre nouvelle ici à Centre Camadlan GIS NTN.
Nicely put, Carlton. Just want to let you know tomorrow we will not be on air with the weekend review, so we won't be on air, but there will be some reruns, some broadcasts of other activities, Government of St. Lucia related activities live on GIS, so tune in for that tomorrow morning. We do hope you enjoy your Emancipation Day tomorrow, and until Monday, we do hope you enjoy the weekend overall. My name is Jessie Leonce on behalf of Carlton and the entire team, production team here at the GIS studios. We hope you enjoy. Cheers.